All right, all right, all right. Ryan Moran is dancing, ladies and gentlemen. Um, hey now, hey
Woo!
now, hey
Do
now. Have
this.
you heard that song? What's that song? It goes, hey now, hey now. No,
I don't know this one. You're gonna have to keep singing for a few minutes for
I
me to
don't.
get that.
Clearly, I don't know it either. Yeah.
Does anyone want Ezra to keep singing? Put
Hey
it in the chat
now,
box.
hey now. Is it? I feel like there's like one of these jazzy, jammy songs that like gets you pumped up and gets you going, and like, that they put on perhaps when you're like walking out on stage, makes you want to dance like that, and it's called Hey Now, and
I don't know.
one guy very, very, very strongly does not want me to continue singing,
Oh,
and
that's kick him out.
well,
I sadly cannot see the chat box,
okay, I'm gonna make
which
you
is
an organizer
oh,
here.
there it is. Oh, I just got it. I
Yeah.
just had the wrong tab open. I
Um,
have to read go to webinar every time we
Thanks.
do
What
this.
what I will say to Clark is fair enough. You did not come for a musical show. You came for
Yeah.
content on how to grow your business, and I do understand that actually. So fair enough. Uh, anyways, don't kick me out. Clark says we're not going to kick you out, man. Don't worry about it. You're welcome to your opinion. And in fact, one of the things that makes Ryan Moran so great is who's obviously my guest on this training for you guys today, is that he is someone who has very strong opinions, someone who I characterize as having sort of polarizing opinions in our community, opinions that, uh, you know, sometimes offend people. And also, I think it's one of the reasons why you have one of the bigger communities, Ryan. One of the stronger communities is because you really have strong and firm ideas that you stand behind and that you test yourself and implement in your own business. And then, but more than that, and I think what I'm sort of getting at with this polarization is yes, you have really awesome business strategies that like help people grow their e-commerce business, their Amazon business, but you also have a very strong guiding business philosophy, which I
Hmm?
think is the part of your content that could be considered polarizing to some, right? Because you like said, this is how I feel about this with relationship to money and business and capitalism. And I think it's all, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating case study. And it's one of the reasons why I love your community so much is because people in your
Thank you.
community, they're like,
You know what my most polarizing and controversial viewpoint is? That I love my cat.
oh, I love my cat too. Sometimes she comes down and participates on my webinar, participates on the webinars. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you, and then I'm going to kind of let you talk, and hopefully,
Okay.
interrupt you as little as possible. But I might interrupt you a few times. So thank you guys for coming to this live presentation on a Wednesday afternoon or morning for some of you. I know it's like, these are prime work hours. And one of the things that if you've hung out with me for any amount of time, is that like I will not put out any content that I don't really believe in the value of. And generally, when we do live presentations, it ends with a, hey, we have this training that we want you to partake in. Like it's like a live presentation where there's really actionable, usable content that will help you grow your business. And then at the end of it, we say, hey, if you want to go deeper with us, here's how you can join our more in-depth training program. So this is similar, except for the thing that I'm trying to get you to do at the end of this presentation is join me and Ryan at his upcoming event called Capitalism Conference in Austin, Texas in December, about a month and 6 days from now. And at
Yep.
the end of the presentation, I'll talk more about that live event because it is an incredible event. And one of the things that I'm super, as someone who puts on events, you guys know about e-commerce all stars. I'm super envious of your event, Ryan, and we'll talk about why at the end, what you've done with it and how you've been able to sort of, there's some things that you've done that I think are really smart with the marketing and content of your event that we'll talk about at the end of this presentation. But for now, aside from this event that you have coming up, you are for sure one of the leading educators when it comes to success rate of student, right? Like there's a lot of people who sell trainings and coach people and help people grow their businesses online. There's not a lot of people who've created as many millionaires as you have. And when I asked you, I was like, hey, listen, I want you to come talk to my crowd, to my community about, some stuff that will be also relevant to your event. What do you think, what would you like to talk about? And you said, well, what about the road to 7 figures and then the road to 8 figures? And I thought, that topic is one that's really interesting, especially coming from a guy who's done it, right? Obviously I've done that too, right? But the beauty of this is if you want to get good at something, you find multiple people who are doing it and you learn from all of them and you pick up something here and something there. If you're hanging out, if you're a Smart Marketer subscriber and you're on this training, then you know my strategies. You know how I think about this, but there will be value in listening to what Ryan thinks about how to scale an e-commerce business. So with that, Ryan Moran of capitalism.com, freedomfastlane.com, thank you for joining us on this presentation, and take it away.
Dude, thanks so much for having me. And like, I like that we could just get the pitch out of the way. Like, I do this event called the Capitalism Conference. You can get it at thecapitalismconference.com. We have a discount at
the end. You got to listen to this to get the discount.
Okay, cool. So you have to listen to the end to get the big fat Ezra discount. But what I want to do what I would actually like to do is I'd like to paint the road to get to 7 figures, and then share with you how to get to 8. And then if we've got time and you actually want to hear it, we can mentally dance to tell you my $100 million plan, the 9-figure plan. Full disclosure, I have not hit $100 million. I just have a plan to get to $100 million. So if you're interested in hearing that, we can dance. We can dance with that.
I think that'll be a fun sort of quick little conversation at the end of this presentation, because I also have a plan for how I'm going to scale my brands to the 9-figure level. And I think that'll be fun. We should do a separate podcast for your community, your tribe, about this topic, because that's an interesting one, because we're both in that zone of like we went from 0 to 6-figure entrepreneurs, from 6-figure to 7-figure entrepreneurs, from 7-figure to 8-figure entrepreneurs, and now we're looking at, you know, if we're going to play this game of wealth creation and this game of like counting numbers, how can we continue to grow? So
yeah, we'll talk absolutely. All right, so I want to hear from those of you who are on live. Let me know in the chat box. I don't think anybody else will see this. I would like to know where you are in your business. Are you at 6 figures, 7 figures? Are you just getting started? If you're willing to throw, you know, what are you doing per month in the chat box? That would help me, so I can kind of guide this specifically for those of you who are on live. So
one guy started from the bottom and now he's here. One guy.
There you go. All right, cool. So got some people at a lot of people just starting out. Some people at 6 figures, 7 figures, 15K a month. 250K this year, 50K a month. All right, cool. Wow. Emmanuel says I look like Drake. You know, I actually get that a lot, which is kind of weird because I don't think I look like Drake at all.
It's the head shape. It's the head shape.
I have a Drake-shaped head? Is that what you're saying?
You do. Yeah, I've never seen it before, but now that he mentions it with the fuzzy, because your camera, by the way, I got to get you a better webcam. Your camera's a little fuzzy. I've got a really good suggestion of a $100 Logitech webcam that I love, but with the fuzziness, the shape of your head is very Drake shaped. He's a good looking guy. You should be happy about that.
Okay. Well, with that, let's talk to those of you who are at 6 figures or just starting out. What does it take to get to 7 figures? Now, full disclosure, I said this on stage at e-commerce All-Stars, which all of you should come to the next time it's around. I said on stage that I have built my career, I have built every business that I started trying to identify where the buyers already hang out and releasing products directly to those buyers. So one of the things that I think a lot of people in our community really struggle with is they get this idea for a product and they get really obsessed with this product, which is great. Like, you should be obsessed with your products, but then they struggle with the question of, how do I sell this product? And the question becomes about, I've got this thing, how do I sell more of this thing? So my strategy, the fast lane to getting that to 6 and 7 figures really quickly, I've always tried to just simply find where my buyers are already hanging out and getting my product right in front of them. So the example that I actually was on a podcast yesterday, and what I shared was, what most people will do is they'll say something like, I've got a water bottle. Who needs a water bottle? It's clear and it's sturdy and it's blue and it's cheap. Water bottle, anyone? Who wants a water bottle? And this is what most people will do. And I think a better way of doing that, a faster way, just from a purely selfish, capitalistic, I want to make money standpoint, I think a better way to do that is to say, well, who already buys water bottles, or who needs water bottles? And to answer that question, we might say, well, if you were at a marathon race and there were a bunch of thirsty runners at mile 18 and you said, hey, water bottle, hey, water bottle, hey, water bottle, you would sell a lot more water bottles than standing on the street corner talking about the features of your product. Most people do the former. Even my community that's really focused on Amazon, both the reason they've been successful and the thing that has held them back is the fact that they see all of these buyers, and it's easy for them to throw a product up there and get some sales, but then they never make this pivot of actually building a brand out of this and taking their product to the people that desire it most. If you combine those two things, you just magic happens, because Amazon starts to reward you, you have affiliates start to come on board, you start to get raving fans, and then the whole thing starts to rise. So one of the things, I'll give you a couple strategies to be able to do this. One of the things that I like to do is, if you were to very simply take your product and identify, okay, who's the person who would consume this? For example, I'm drinking a cup of coffee right now. One of our team members who just graduated and became a full-time entrepreneur, Marusha Murphy, has a line of coffee, which is a coffee specific. What's that? Perky, right? Yeah. So
great,
she has it's awesome. And the reason it's a great brand is because it's directly targeted to women, specifically moms. Now, if you want to talk about a super competitive market, let's talk about coffee.
Yeah.
It's hard to sell coffee.
And everyone has a coffee now, too, by the way.
And you can go down the street to the street corner and get coffee. You can, in Austin, like, you could fall on the street and fall into a coffee shop, right? So everybody already has it. It's there. You can get really cheap coffee. It's hard to compete on price. The profit margins are low. So how in the world do you stand out in a competitive world like coffee? Well, instead of Marusha saying, I've got coffee, who wants coffee? Look at my coffee. It's strong and it tastes good.
And it's fair trade and it's organic, which
right.
I think there's a point here as well that I want to make after you're done.
Okay, cool. So what she did was she said, okay, my target is moms. Moms, you are powerful. You're important. You are valuable. Let's get together. Who wants a cup of coffee?
And you're busy and you want that morning, her whole pitch is really good. But here's what I think is an underlying point about this is that her product is also really good. You can't have a crappy product and a great, you kind of need both. You need that good. You need the underlying value proposition of a really actually good offer, and what you're saying, adding on to it a story and a community and a particular group of people that it's focused at.
I would add to that, what is being different, just having some slight difference. Coffee for women is different enough.
Yeah.
Now, here's another example. Same market, bulletproof coffee. Ezra, you and I had some jokes. What you call it, like my coffee meal, because I put protein powder in it. I got ketone oil in it.
I'm like, hey man, I just want some eggs. I'm over at your house, and here you are, like it's a laboratory of stuff. But it looked good. I mean, it tasted good too. So I don't know.
So Dave Asprey came out with bulletproof coffee. Once again, like super competitive market. Dave talks about how he, is backpacking in the Tibetan mountains, and he has this yak butter tea, and he goes and discovers that all coffee has mold on it. So he releases mold-free coffee. So we got a bit of a story. He's talking about it to a very specific audience, his people who want it. And what's the result? The result is a best-selling coffee that's twice the price of everybody else, and probably isn't that different.
Also, what he did with that was, since he was like kind of talking to the growth hacker, business, entrepreneur, people, you know what I mean, is he ended up getting that community engaged with his brand, which ended up generating a ton of user-generated content, which he then used to amplify his brand, which is one of the other beautiful things about engaging a niche community, a specific community. Even if your brand is ultimately going to be a really widely used brand, like he just raised $9 million, I think 6 months ago or something in venture funding. But it started with that small community of people who he engaged, who adored and loved and identified with his product.
So let's talk about how we can do this practically, because the whole idea here is that we have a group of people who naturally want our product, And your only goal to get to 7 figures, the only thing you need to do is release 3 to 5 products to that community, get them to 20 to 30 sales a day at an average price point of $25. Let's just run the numbers on that. 3 to 5 products times 25 sales a day is about 100 sales per day. At $25 to $30 a sale, you're right at about $1 million business. That is all we need to do is have that core community and release 3 to 5 products to them and get them to 25 to 35
and when we look
per day.
at the way, like when we talk about the infrastructure behind in your community, how you're having folks do this is launching those out onto Amazon and then using social media advertising to engage those communities and get them over to buy on Amazon, basically.
Yeah, that's basically my thesis. And if we can control some sort of a pool of audience members or buyers, and we send them to Amazon rather than just releasing on Amazon, you'll rank on Amazon a lot faster. And if you have that, it doesn't matter where you're collecting the order. If it's on Shopify, then you have that group of buyers that you can send to Shopify. That's an easier sell than just driving cold advertising. Now, you should drive cold advertising. You should use Amazon.com. But if you have that pool of audience members that you can send either way, collecting the check is a lot easier. So from a practical standpoint, one of the ways that we could do this is something like a mini 7-day challenge or a 5-day challenge or a 10-day challenge. So if you have a weight loss challenge, for example, and you happen to sell keto products or workout products or coffee, or you're doing a 7-day cleanse and you take your product and you start to release that on day 3 or 4 of the challenge, what I will do is I'll put people into a Facebook group, advertise the Facebook group, get that group a little bit engaged where they're taking some sort of action on day 1, day 2, day 3. We have a little bit of a community starting to form. And on days 3, 4, 5, through the end of the challenge, we're starting to feature our products as the solution or the end of that challenge or as the thing that they're going to consume that day. So if we're doing a weight loss challenge, for example, and on day 4, we're telling them, okay, one of the things that we can do to accelerate your weight loss is to do a liver cleanse. Now, a liver cleanse doesn't need to be this crazy long thing. We've put together this collection of herbs that is going to help you detoxify your liver. It happens to be your liver cleansing supplement. Or it might be, we're going to replace our morning breakfast with coffee and MCT oil, and you sell coffee and MCT oil. And that's day 4 of the challenge. What you'll find is you'll get a little bit of an audience starting to respond to that Facebook challenge. And if this is done in a group, you'll get people encouraging one another, and you can send people over to Amazon or wherever you're collecting the order. And we just need to duplicate that over 3 to 5 products in order to have the $1 million business, which in my experience takes about 6 months once you have the product up and live. Another way you could do this is with an email list. If you've got a 7-day challenge or you have an opt-in with a good follow-up series and you're driving traffic through Zipify and you're collecting that email address and you're following up with them and then you're sending them back to your checkout page, the process here is we can be warming them up, building an audience, collecting the order, and building a buyer's list over time. And as we're doing this, once again, we're fueling Amazon's algorithm, we're testing different conversion pieces, and we just need those 3 to 5 products selling 25 to 35 a day in order to be at 100 sales a day or about $1 million business.
You know, one of the interesting things that I think that that should be pointed out here is, we're talking about creating a core community and putting our products in front of a group of people who are going to be actively interested in them and who are also engaged in some conversation beyond the products, some amount of content that they're consuming or engaging with beyond just our products. That's kind of like the overarching strategy that we're talking about. And one of the things that I think people get stuck on, so there's a local, I don't know if you can see this behind me. This is a martial arts mat. And what you can't see over in the corner, see this, wait for it. What is that over there? See
Uh,
that?
looks like a man that you wrestle with.
That's exactly what that is. The man that I wrestle with. So,
Beat him up pretty
I mean,
good,
it's
as
not a live person, but it's called a grappling dummy. There's a
he was
local
alive
gym.
until Ezra started wrestling with him.
Yeah, it's just now it's stuck in the corner. I had a party down here. I pulled out the big TV and we had popcorn and we drank. There was some beers people drank, and then I came down the next morning and he's like face down, and it just looked like he had a rager. You know what I mean? Blankets everywhere, empty beer bottles. It was really funny. Anyways, the point that I wanted to get to here was that this gym has grown considerably in the last 4 months because I've spent money advertising it consistently over time. It's not my gym; it's a friend's gym, but I put $10 a day, $30 a day into consistent amplification of content that was engaging to a group of people that ultimately led back to an offer, which was this local gym. And I think the thing that people miss out on when they're like, well, I tried to create a community, it didn't work, is you have to do this consistently over time, and you have to fuel it with some amount, could be $300 a month or whatever, but some amount of consistent amplification of the underlying message. And Ryan just pointed out a couple strategies with regard to an email sequence or with regard to a Facebook group challenge. It doesn't matter what your underlying content that you're amplifying to engage this group of people is, but it's got to be done consistently over time. It can't be start stop. It doesn't work. You got to constantly be out there. Like if you're a subscriber of Smart Marketer, you will notice nary a week goes by in your Facebook newsfeed or Instagram newsfeed where you don't see something from me that's promoted to you, because I'm attempting to stay relevant in your life by adding value to you through content over time, and I'm amplifying that content. So it's the same strategy.
Yeah, I mean, when I started this, I've talked about this on my YouTube channel in the past. I did not have an audience. I did not have experience buying traffic. So what I did was I had a yoga products brand called Zen Active Sports, which I sold about 18 months after I started it. But Zen Active was a yoga mat, a yoga block, yoga towels, but it started as just a yoga mat. That was the product. I did not have a following. I did not have an audience. So what I did, there you go. So what I did was I started a Facebook page, and this was not anything sophisticated. This was just like, I was figuring it out. I started this Facebook page called I Love Yoga. And the reason was I figured if somebody liked a page called I Love Yoga, they probably did yoga. So I did this page. I started posting like things from YouTube and articles and just things that we would find on the internet. And I spent $10 a day for 30 days building up a little audience of about 5,000 followers on Facebook, which is nothing great. It's not like anything went viral. It was just like we did enough to get some audience. And then we started talking about the product as it was getting ready for launch. We boosted a couple posts saying, hey, do you want to be first in line to get the Zen Active Sports yoga mat? If so, go to this page and enter your email address. If ManyChat had existed back then, I would have said, hey, do you want to be first in line to get this yoga mat? If so, comment yes, and we'll send you a 25% off gift card for when it's ready. And then we would have followed up with them via some of Ezra's strategies. So we didn't have that back then. We were just collecting email addresses. So when the product came ready to be live, we had a nice little list of people who wanted to buy it. We had 5,000 people who were following our posts. And so when we put the product up for sale, we had sales from day one. We came out of the gate at about 30 sales a day at about a $35 a clip price point, which is $1,000 a day right out of the gate. And like, this was the first time I was doing this. This is years ago. So if you follow Ezra, you're better than I was when I was doing this stuff. So we then said, okay, what would be the next logical thing that this community would buy? Yoga blocks, yoga towels, foam rollers. And then we built up a nice base of a business that we sold for a modest but decent payday about 18 months later. So that is the core of my strategy. To get to 7 figures, it requires you to know what you're selling and how you're selling it, which could be Amazon or Shopify in your list of products, and then to have some little core audience that you've developed through advertising. And it could be a Facebook group, it could be a challenge, it could be that someone you know has a big YouTube following. But where are you going to get in front of media? the important thing, the important hack is not influencers, it's not email, it's not ManyChat. It's simply having access to an audience, and you can scratch that itch in a myriad of different ways.
Sure. When you were starting, it was Facebook fan pages. Now it's Facebook groups and a challenge or an email list or ManyChat or whatever.
Yeah. And we love to get together and say like, oh, this person's doing this. This person's doing this. It all works, especially up to 7 figures, because getting to 7 figures simply requires you to have 3 to 5 products, selling 25 to 35 sales a day at an average of $25 to $35 per unit. Simple as that. All right. So, Ez, do you want to clarify anything about the road to 7 figures, or should we move on from there?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think people know that like the key there is the consistent, ongoing amplification and rolling out of new products to the market once you have a successful product in the market. And I think people get what happens is like usually when you're at a 6-figure level and you've like done some amount of marketing to get there, all of a sudden infrastructural things become important. Things like what are you doing in the legal side of your business? Is your supply chain actually able to continue to scale from here? Oh man, I need to hire a customer support person. So I see this happening. People reach a 6-figure mark and then all of a sudden all their attention goes to infrastructure and process and they stop marketing and then they kind of stagnate. So it's like keep that marketing going so that, don't stop the marketing ever. I think is a to get to 7 figures. Keep attention on marketing. Okay, now you're at 7 figures.
Is a great segue because I want y'all to look at this like a pyramid. So let's make a pyramid because I'm in the Illuminati. And what I want you to think of here is the base of the pyramid. That is your 7-figure business. That is you knowing what you're selling and how you're going to sell it. It's like that is the base level of the pyramid. Are you thinking about a 7-figure business? Are you thinking about the cash flows and the revenues of your business? That is the baseline of like the total wealth strategy, the $100 million empire that we're kind of going through. This second level up in the pyramid is that scaling from 7 to 8 figures, and that always comes from dialing in your marketing and sales. So I don't know a single business, actually let me say this, I know a lot of businesses that get to 7 figures not being good at marketing and sales. They just need to have products and they need to have a sales channel. But I don't know any businesses that got from 7 figures to 8 without dialing in their marketing and sales, without being at least good enough to be able to acquire customers and put them through a process of elevating that customer value and getting repeat customers out of them. So I'm going to give you a couple things to think about. I think there's only really a few levers that in 2017, 2018, we need to be thinking about. And they are very simply direct response advertising, video advertising,
double hey now,
and product innovation, which is really going to be finding your difference in the marketplace. So I think I'm of the theory that if you get modestly good at 2 of the 3 of these things, that is going to at least push you closer to that 8-figure business. So Ezra focuses a lot on the direct response piece. And the direct response, would you consider it fair, Ezra, that direct response is simply the ability to spend money on advertising and turn them into profitable customers?
For sure.
And then the ability to follow up with them and create a long-term customer value, a lifetime customer value out of that acquired person. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, it's customer acquisition at a profit. I mean, that's what you're going for. Eventually, after XYZ amount of time.
And I know we've heard the conversation a bunch of times, but would you briefly tell the story of what happened to your business when in 2016, when you started spending money on your beauty brands and you had articles starting to acquire customers and the hockey stick up that you had in growth?
Yeah, I mean, when we had this brand that had really, really awesome message to market match and amazing products. So innovation on the product side, something nobody else was doing from a product perspective with regard to how we were framing our products. I mean, people had similar things, but like we have a really good message and frame and use case and idea, and like it was, people were really resonating with this offer, and we built it up to be a six-figure business over the course of 5 years. It took us, because we weren't on Amazon. We were only doing sort of YouTube and vlogging and some ads, and for the first 5 years, we got to being a sort of recurring six-figure a year business. And then 2015 to 2016, the year of 2015, we 10x'd. We went from 400 grand to like 4 million. And that was 100% driven by this is what same thing happened to me, was like, I have all these businesses. All my attention went from advertising and sales to infrastructure. So I am guilty of this thing that I'm saying, that happens. This is like a description of what happened in my business. So in 2015, we really refocused on amplifying our business through video advertising and doing all the things we're talking about: conversion rate optimization and upselling and cross-selling and loyalty selling and all that stuff. And we 10x the business. Then in 2016 to 2017, we went from 4 million to 17.3 million. So we 4x'd. So in that 2-year span, we went from a couple $100,000 a year business to a $17 million a year business. And then this year, 2017 is almost over now. We'll be at about 15 or 20% higher than we were last year. So we'll be about 20 million.
Yeah, amazing. And this is simply the result of the ability to profitably spend money on advertising to acquire new customers, turn them into repeat customers, control that customer experience. And if you can do that predictably, that is how you dial in your marketing and sales to go from 7 figures to 8 figures. And many, many businesses have repeatedly made that pivot from 7 to 8, but none of them did it without getting good at advertising, without the ability to turn advertising into profit. So a lot of people hit this $1 million point and then they struggle. And what I consider a concern is that in the online space, especially in the Amazon or physical product space, the conversation is often, all right, I hit the million, what's the hack now? Like, what's the new way to unethically game Amazon to try and stand out? Or what is the secret that's going to take me from 7 to 8? And the secret is getting good at direct response advertising.
And let me throw a statistic out there for those of you that are interested in numbers. My viewpoint is, take your revenue number for your entire business for 2016. Total amount of revenue, whatever that is. Picture that in your head. My viewpoint is that if you're not spending between 25 and 30% of that number back on amplification of the brand, you're not investing as much as you could be.
Wow, that's bold.
It's bold, and for a lot of people, that's their entire profit of their business. And here's what I'm saying. Whatever's left over, you got to look at it as a snowball that builds over time, right? It took me from 2010 to 2015 to reach a multi-million-dollar business mark, and then the next 2 years to get to 8 figures, right? But 5 years, I worked really hard at building this snowball before this brand blew up overnight, right? So if you can possibly take as much energy as the snowball is generating and put it back into it, you grow faster, right? So the less that you pull out and do stuff with, and the more that you reinvest back into amplification, the faster the business grows. And I think what happens to a lot of people is they quit their job too early, they quit their side hustle too early, and they start drawing from their business the fuel that was moving the business forward. And then they're like, oh, my business is stagnated. It's like, well, you started taking 15 grand out of it instead of reinvesting that back into amplification. And so I'm very much of the mind, as much as you possibly can afford, put back in from an investment standpoint. And one of the things that you say a lot, and this we can segue into, I know we're not done with our content conversation, but I do want to segue into reminding people that actually one of the other things about this presentation is that I'm attempting to persuade you to come to Ryan Moran's conference in Austin, Texas, December 7th through 9th, so 5 weeks from now. And I do have a 50% off coupon that I'll give you in a minute. But one of the things that you said about your event was, I was like, man, how did you all of a sudden come out of nowhere and have like such an amazing event with like real celebrity, like world famous speakers, and also all the best in the direct response, e-commerce, and Amazon? Like, how did this even happen? And you're like, listen, I was willing to lose the longest, which I heard, which translated, you can explain what you mean by that, but which translated to me as I was willing to invest the most. That's what it sounds like in my head, because the way I frame my businesses is how much am I really willing to invest in this?
Yes.
That's
So
how much you get out what you put in, you know?
full disclosure, I make 100% of my money from my physical products brands. So I reinvest all of the profit in capitalism.com into building more exposure. So I am willing to lose at reinvesting all the profit from our events, all the profit into our training programs, back into more exposure and back into an amazing experience for our people. And I started doing that from the very first event because I knew that by year 3 and year 4, we would be recognized as having the best events in our industry. So I was willing to lose longer than anyone else in order to create a name and an experience and recognition in the marketplace. And I think that's what you're referencing.
Yeah, it's such a subtle shift of perspective with regard to how you're looking at the overall business that you have. Like, how long of a game are you playing? Are you playing a 10-year game? Are you playing a 5-year game? Are you playing a 3-year game? However long of a game, however far out you're looking is how much you should be looking at how much can I reinvest in the growth of this thing. And I think that actually we've gotten to something really interesting here, that like that is a very, very, you could pull that element out and almost be able to tell how well someone's going to do in a business by where they fall on that line of how much they're going to put in before they start drawing from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm playing a 25-year game. So capitalism.com to me is a 25-year commitment. And I am willing, I even say I'm willing to lose for 10 years in order to create the type of company that I want, which is a company that has the ability to take your next idea, and when we talk about it, it becomes a 7 or an 8-figure business because we have that type of an impact. I want to quickly go through.
Real quick before you do, I want to point something out here, which is that you are someone who's in a very unique position in as much as you've created the luxury, the surplus, the ability to be able to invest in the growth of this brand and have something else that's making your money. So one of the reasons why I can launch new brands right now, put a lot into them, and have them take off quickly is because I have Smart Marketer that's successful, Zipify that's successful, Boom that's successful, Be Friendly that's successful. So if I'm starting something new, I'm not worried about it doing well for me, which is why I pointed out to the folks who are just getting started that I think some folks quit their side hustle a little too soon. Because if you just do it a little bit longer and you give that business more opportunity to reinvest its profits and get traction, you'll be able to grow a little bit quicker. So I think that it's easier to do what we're talking about once you already have something that's successful, or you have a way that you're making money that's like a job or something.
Sure, I agree. So let's quickly go through the other areas that'll take you from 7 to 8, and then we can kind of we can talk about how we're going to get to 100 million as well, if you guys actually want to hear about that. So the second piece, we talked about direct response advertising. What I think right now, like the thing that is the most profitable way to actually dial in your direct response advertising and go from 7 to 8 figures is in video advertising, is in using video to be able to drive your direct response. Video is the only advertising medium that I had ever seen where people voluntarily share your advertisement with other people. All we have to do is look at Squatty Potty, Poopery, Dollar Shave Club, ClickFunnels now. Yeah. These are all 8, 9, 10-figure businesses. Dollar Shave Club sold for $1 billion because of one video. Poopery is a $30 million per year company because of one product and one video. We actually have the creative team coming to the Capitalism Conference and putting on a workshop about viral marketing, because I have a lot of physical product sellers in my space and they don't really understand how they can make one product stand out, or they don't realize that one video can completely change a business. Ezra, you look like you want to say something.
Just that, like, it is sort of mind-boggling when you confront that one piece of relevant content that actually engages a group of people can build an 8-figure brand. I mean, one could argue that one article is what built my 8-figure brand. I mean, I spent so far now, I think I've spent like 10 million on ads in the last 3 years or something like that. All of it has been to one article. So one one piece of content that really hits, like the Dollar Shave Club video, like the Poopery video, like my article, can really be impactful.
Okay, do you want to know the secret to going viral? Would anyone
Yes.
like to hear this? All right, so I'm gonna do a teaser here to make sure everybody's paying attention. I'm gonna wait for 20 yeses in the chat box.
Hey guys, go ahead and give us some yeses.
Oh, Clark got it.
Clark is out there, man. Clark is
right,
really he's going hard today. That's exciting. I mean, listen, I like that kind of enthusiasm. You know, it's like this. She's showing up. You know.
All right, so here is.
You got like 100 yeses, by the way. You have a lot.
The secret to going viral. Does anyone have any guesses? Like some people say inspiration. Some people say humor. Some people say girls. Some people say muscles. Right? So there's all kinds of theories about what makes something go viral. This is it. There's only one thing. Conversion. Here's why. If your video converts at a profitable rate, you have unlimited money to advertise and amplify that video so it can go viral. The secret is not in, is your video funny? The secret is, does the humor help your conversion rate? Originality does not make you go viral, but does originality help you convert more eyeballs into customers? If the answer to those is yes, then you can predictably spend money to boost that video to the right audience and make a profit so you can continue amplifying the video. That is the secret. It's not in, let's be funny. It's not, let's do X. It is, does the video convert viewers into customers so we can spend unlimited money to make it go viral? That is the reason why Poopery is a $30 million a year company. It's not because they had a girl with an accent saying funny, inappropriate things. It's because that girl with an accent saying inappropriate things made people buy the product, which allowed them to spend more money on advertising to get more customers and be a $30 million a year company. Throw some hashtags in the chat box if that makes sense.
For sure. It makes a lot of sense. It's really also a good way of framing the business back to this underlying concept which I believe and have been espousing, which is amplify, like that if you want to scale, you figure out paid amplification. And the way that you figure out paid amplification is through video advertising, hence my course, Facebook Video Ads Mastery. And there's a specific strategy to that. And I also love the idea of looking at virality in that way, because actually you're right. I mean, you look at that article, it's super viral because we spent so much money advertising it. So it's a really, really good way of framing virality. And it also takes the mystery out of virality in a way.
So let's talk about the last piece of going from 7 to 8 figures, which is product differentiation, or what I would call innovation. And what I want you to realize here is most people get to 7 figures by releasing products that their customers or their audience already buys. So for me, it would be yoga mats, yoga towels, yoga blocks in that example we talked about earlier. But once we have a 7-figure business, that means we have enough profit margin to reinvest into some products that might be a little bit different in our marketplace. It might be a little bit different to our audience. It might actually be innovative, not where we have to make something up to make it look innovative, but to where it actually might be different in the marketplace. Then we have the profit margin to be able to take some strategic risks. And a strategic risk is we might spend $10,000 out of our $1 million business to be able to release one new product that may or may not hit. And the
Let me give you an example. I want to give a practical example of this. There's a guy in my Blue Ribbon Mastermind, which is my version of, you've got a mastermind too. What's your mastermind called?
Yeah, it's called the Back Room.
So you have your Backroom Mastermind, I have Blue Ribbon Mastermind, right? So it's the same thing for folks who are familiar with our communities. Different, obviously, but similar concept. So a guy in my Blue Ribbon Mastermind came out on Amazon with something called a TENS unit, which is like, it's like this thing that you put on and it electrically stimulates your muscles. It's for people with sore muscles and joints. It's generally targeted towards men over 45, and you stick it on your neck, and it gives you electrical pulses, right? These are common, apparently. Like, this is a product that a lot of people use, a lot of people know about. TENS unit, I think is what it's called. So he did, this was a couple years ago. He did all the stuff we would do, the Amazon launches, the amplification, the discount giveaways, all that. He built this product up to be a multi-million-dollar a year winning Amazon product. Exactly what you're talking about. 7 figures using the strategy we just talked about. Took that money, invested it in developing his own product. His own product that I'm going to show you.
The anticipation is killing me.
Ryan Moran, I present to you, and people listening, I present to you the... Boy, I don't even know what this thing is called, but you've never seen anything like this before in your life, I promise you. You turn it on here.
I have one of those things.
Look at this. It's a massager, and you use this to figure out how much pressure you want on you, and you massage yourself with it. Fascinating product, right? He invented this.
$30 million either in Costco, right?
He's in now we're talking about 9 figures, right? So get this. He invents this thing. Has a market, has money, can invest, comes up with a product that's not been seen before in the market, that's got some unique use cases and is interesting, releases it to his current community, makes a bunch of money, signs a deal with Costco because it's so cool, and now he's going to do a whole lot of money this year, big money. So
now,
just pointing out that there's a real life guy in our community example. This is not just out there ethereal. Nobody can do this. No, this is one of a guy who came up through the system, just like you who might be on this training. Same strategy, launched on Amazon, made a little money, invested that in a product. This can happen.
Yeah, and full disclosure, it probably cost him, a decent chunk of change, at least $10,000, to have that product made and be different in the marketplace. So he would want to wait until he was at 7 figures before he overcomplicated the process. But that investment turned out to be worth millions of dollars to him. And did you
buy one at Costco?
What's that?
You bought one at Costco?
No, I got one at CNC after I think you introduced me to him.
Got it.
Yeah. So you might only have 50%, maybe even less, of those products hit. But the ones that hit pay dirt and almost effortlessly take you from 7 figures to 8 figures. And if you combine all these things together, you have something new in the marketplace and you have some video advertising that converts on the direct response side, that is a predictable path to go from 7 figures to 8 figures once you have the profit margin to be able to do that. And that's how a lot of companies, most companies, grow from 0 to 7 and then from 7 to 8 figures. And now if you'd like, if it's actually going to be valuable to you, we can spend 5 minutes talking about going to 100 million. Would that actually be valuable to you guys, or would you rather?
I don't know if it's going to be relevant. Let's find out. Do you want to hear about our different plans for how we're going to get to $100 million businesses?
Figure stuff. Ari says, duh.
Let's see. Yes.
We got a few.
One guy says no thanks, not relevant, but interested. Okay. Most people are saying yes. We got one person who's not interested.
Okay.
No, 2 people who aren't interested. So, yeah, I'd say it's a 95% yes rate, a couple people who are not interested. I'll tell you what, why don't we do the pitch for Capitalism conference, and then we'll talk about it. So, and for those of you who don't want to hear about our different ideas on how to get to 9 figures, I want to quickly tell you about Capitalism conference in Austin, Texas in December, and give you a way to, get access to attending that conference at a discount. So the first thing is that, like Ryan said, this is the 4th year, I believe, 5th year maybe.
This is year 3.
Yeah, but you got to count Freedom Fast Lanes as well.
Yeah, this is still year 3.
Okay, year 3 of your event. Wow, I'm surprised. When you look at the value proposition of an event, in my opinion, when I look back at my business, I can trace most of my giant leaps forward to some relationship or person or piece of content that I got from a live event. And here's why. Because in your everyday life, you're taking out the trash and you're bringing the kids to school and you're washing the dishes and you're doing the laundry and you're working on you're in your computer and you're in your email and you're in your text and you're in your Facebook. You've got all these cycles that you are responsible for as a human being, that you've got to show up for. And so you only have a certain amount of energy for your business because you're managing your home life. When you step out of the bubble of your home life and you step into the bubble of 3 full days, 100% of energy directed at growth in the business, you see these big gains because you're able to dedicate all this energy that's usually, focused on your life over to your business. Let me give you an analogy for it. A lot of people are of the mind these days that intermittent fasting is a good thing to do for your health. And a lot of people are also of the mind that doing a juice cleanse for 3 days or a master cleanse for 3 days or some kind of cleanse where you're not putting food into your system is a good idea for your health. And here's the underlying sort of science behind that. The idea is that as you eat food, and this is going to make sense in a second, as you eat food and your body is spending energy digesting that food, your body doesn't have the energy to go in and do deep cleaning. So if you stop eating food, your digestion stops, your body has more energy to go in and do deep cleaning. That's the sort of fundamental ideology behind why doing fasting is good, right? And so it's the same thing as coming to an event. This energy that's directed at managing your life is freed up, and then you're around inspiring people, amazing content, and people who you're way more likely to make a connection with that's going to grow your business than some schmo down at the grocery store, right? You're around a group of people who are all doing the same thing. And one of the things I love about your event, Ryan, is I don't know how you get these speakers. I put on events. I feel like I've got a great network. I never have these celebrity speakers.
Do you want to know?
I mean, I think you've told me. I mean, I do know now. It was like, oh, that's how you do it. You pay them. Who would have thought?
Look, I started the Capitalism Conference because I have a goal of getting to $100 million and buying the Cleveland Indians. And I don't know how I'm going to do that. I know how I'm going to do it now, but when I started this, I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I paid these guys to come in and teach me. And then I invited my community to join, and it became the Capitalism Conference. So when I want to know how Gary Vaynerchuk is going to get the $6 billion he needs to buy the New York Jets, I hired him and I flew him in to Austin, Texas, and I invited people to sit in on the room. So that's what I do at the Capitalism Conference. Is I bring in these people who have built 8- and 9-figure companies to come in and teach me, and then I invite people to join because I figure it'd be valuable for my community as well. For those of you who actually have your sights set on a 7 or an 8 or a 9-figure empire, this is specifically for you because of that.
Well, the page that you can go to is capitalismconference.com/Ezra.
So it's actually, oh, is that working for you? Okay, the actual link that I sent you was just capitalism.com/Ezra. But if that link is working.
Yeah, what'd you send me? Capitalism?
Capitalism.com/Ezra should take you to a 50% off discount.
Got it. Yeah, there you go. Here you go. 50% off discount. Wow. That's amazing. So you can go to Capitalism. You can get the recordings here too. I don't know. I'm going to put the URL in. Go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm messing this up. Why don't we put the URL in the chat box for everyone? Yeah. And will you say it one more time?
It is capitalism.com/Ezra. And I'm going to put
capitalism.com/Ezra. You can get a 50% off ticket. I will be there. I will be speaking from the main stage. I will be speaking about Facebook advertising to amplify your business using direct response marketing, videos, messenger, etc. I hope. I don't know. I haven't talked to you about what I'm speaking about yet, but I was thinking I might speak about that.
And do you know that you are speaking? You're speaking after Brian Lee of The Honest Company, who is the founder, built $1 billion. Actually, it's a $1 billion company. It's selling diapers and cleaning products. You're speaking after Kimball Musk, who's Elon's brother and closest advisor. And you're speaking after Jeff Hoffman, who was on the founding board of Priceline, also was part of UBID and advises a bunch of $1 million and $1 billion companies. He's going to be talking about how to grow companies quickly. So you are following legends, my friend.
I love it. I think that makes sense. I should be on that stage. You know what I mean? I agree. Listen, I mean, not to be arrogant and egotistical, but like, I can help you grow your business for sure. I've got thousands of successful students to prove that. And boy, this event is going to be so good. And I'd love to see you down there in Austin, Texas. It's a great city. In fact, it's where I did my event this last year. Capitalism.com/Ezra. Join me and Ryan Moran. Invest. You get out what you put in. Invest in your business by flying yourself down to Austin and consuming potentially life-changing information and making connections and using that as an excuse, as a catalyst to grow your business. And I only endorse 3 or 4 conferences in the industry that I'll ever get on and tell you about and be like, you need to be at this. And this is one of them, besides my own. And then there's 1 or 2 others that I go to every year. But your event is like basically what happened last year. I'd never been to your event. Last year, a bunch of people in my mastermind were like, hey, there's this amazing event. And I was like, oh, wow, it does look great. I know this guy. And then I reached out to you and I said, hey, a bunch of my mastermind members want to come to your event. Can you hook me up with some kind of a discount for them? And you gave me a little bit of a deal. And then they went and they were like, dude, that event was amazing. These are high-level business owners in my mastermind. And they were like, it was amazing for people just getting started and people who are successful. So once you had the endorsement of my mastermind members, I was like, all right, sold. So this is actually going to be my first time live. I did see some of the recordings and stuff. So I'm excited about it, man. And
I'm excited to have you, Ezra. And since I'm an internet marketer, I'm going to do a couple fast action bonuses for people who are on the webinar, because scarcity, blah, blah, blah. Here's what we're going to do. I have a bonus that's closed, but since a lot of you are hearing about this for the first time, I'm going to open it up just for people who are on this. And that is, number 1, I put together a selection of recordings from past events that are specifically about going to an 8-figure business, growing to 8 figures and beyond. So we had Cameron Harold speak about casting an 8-figure vision. Go ahead.
Test the URL for me, because someone says they're trying to buy right now and they're not working for them. But really? Sorry, I interrupted your whole fancy bonus description. So yeah. That was like, you know what an internet marketer shouldn't have done was interrupt you in the middle of a pitch. But I'm not that good at that internet marketer-ish, but so anyways.
So let me kick someone just to see if it's working, but you're right. The discount for whatever reason is not activated. So I'm going to do my pitch while I am kicking someone.
Okay.
But we have
a bonus. It's some recordings.
Say that again.
I was bringing you back into the moment. You got this bonus and it's something good.
Right. So we put together a list of entrepreneurs who have built 8-figure businesses and 9 figures, some of them billion-dollar companies. And we put together a list. We call it the 8-figure vault. So if you're somebody who has your sights set on a 7 or 8-figure business, there's going to be some recordings from past events that are specifically made to get you to that 8-figure mark as quickly as possible. The second bonus that I'm going to throw in is one that we're just opening up. We're calling it the Warren Buffett bonus. And the Warren Buffett bonus is specifically made of, it's going to be about buying and selling businesses. So earlier this year, I sold one of my businesses. I sold a majority stake for 8 figures. And I'm now investing that into other businesses. And I am buying physical products businesses. I'm buying websites. I buy web businesses. That is my primary investment. So what I'm going to be doing is putting together a 4-part class that exists specifically to talk about buying businesses with other people's money. It is going to exist. It's going to help you grow those businesses so that you actually create more income from those businesses. And we're going to talk about buying websites. We're going to talk about buying physical products businesses. And the reason for this is because the richest people in the world, like Warren Buffett, didn't make their money growing businesses. They made their money buying businesses and investing in businesses. So what we're going to go through is everything that I know about buying businesses with other people's money, growing the profit margins. And that's going to be a 4-part live class before the Capitalism conference. So those are the 2 bonuses, plus you get 50% off discount. And I just verified capitalism.com/Ezra is the correct link. It is a 50% off discount. So if you go there right now, it is $7.97 instead of the $14.97 price that is the face value. So you can go over to capitalism.com/Ezra and maybe hanging out with Ezra, myself, other serial millionaires and billionaires for 3 days. Plus you'll get the Warren Buffett bonus class and you're getting the 8-figure vault from previous events.
Awesome, dude. Okay, cool. So I would consider the Pits for Capitalism conference in Austin, Texas, December 7th through 9th, 5 weeks from now, concluded. Now we can talk about the road to nine figures.
Cool. So remember we talked about the pyramid because I'm in the Illuminati? We have the base of the pyramid, which is your seven-figure business, having something that's bigger than you. Then we have the mid-tier of the pyramid. That is dialing in your marketing and your sales. The top end of the pyramid, in my opinion, is what you invest in. And by invest, I mean investing in people, investing into new technologies, investing into other businesses. So when I sat on stage with Gary Vaynerchuk in 2015, and I said, Gary, what's the secret from going from 1 million to 100 million? Because he had just crossed $100 million in his business. He said, listen, there's no app, there's no algorithm. It's about people. If you want to go from 1 million to 100 million, it's about people. And it's about investing in people. That was his investment. People like Warren Buffett invest in other businesses.
Sure.
The secret to wealth is in building businesses and investing the profits. And once you have dialed in your marketing and sales, it becomes all about what you are investing in. And that's why I buy businesses. It's why I'm building a team. It's why I'm putting in the work to figure out how to build and lead teams, because I know to go to 100 million, it's going to be about what I invest in. It's also why I have a separate arm of my business that exclusively exists to build and invest in other physical products businesses. So I know what it takes to grow an 8-figure business. What we do in our mastermind, in the back room, and in my businesses is we start other brands or we buy other brands and we do a roll-up model. Because when you package businesses together, the sale price goes way up in these businesses. So if I had packaged my last sale with some other similar businesses, I actually would have gotten way more money without me doing additional in my business.
Let me explain a little bit of stuff behind that for people who may not be aware of this, and sort of like when you start looking at selling a business for a lot of money. Let's say you have a company that's trading at $10 a share, okay? Right? Yep. And you have a group of businesses that's doing, let's say, $20 million a year in sales, right? Okay, $20 million a year in turnover, let's say, like mine. Now, you sell that to this business, this bigger, multi-$100 million, billion-dollar business that's trading at $10 a share. You sell that $20 million a year in revenue to them at a 3 multiple, right? Meaning you get $60 million for your 3 multiple on revenue, let's say, which is aggressive, but let's say you did, okay? You sold them for $60 million. Well, as soon as they take that $20 million a year, it's worth 10x that, because their bottom line is trading at a 10 multiple, right? So that $20 million in added revenue and profit is worth $200 million to them as far as the share of their stock. So they're like immediately up on the deal. Hey there, friend who's watching the webinar. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so point being, if you can roll a bunch of companies together, get a big amount of yearly revenue and sell that to a bigger, more relevant audience. I think Ryan's daughter might be coming on the call. Maybe not. Okay, I think she will be. That is one of the reasons why you would roll a bunch of businesses together, is to get a higher valuation and then ultimately a higher multiple on that sale. It's a beautiful thing to do, especially if all those businesses are in the same market, right? You've got multiple cosmetics and makeup businesses, or multiple fitness and lifestyle brands. Hey there, little muffin.
Hey, can you say hi? Say hi to
Esther. I haven't seen your hair in a ponytail. Looking good, girl.
She says, I want to look like Ezra. Say, man bun.
Let's get that bun up top. Can we get that going for you? No? Okay. She is uninterested. Bye.
Go on.
Anyways, I like the idea of investing profits, because kind of one of the things that we discussed about going from 7 to 8 is reinvesting the profit back into amplification. And now we're talking about taking the energy or profit that your business is making and investing it in assets such as team, right? I got a 60-person team growth, such as technology infrastructure, or product infrastructure, or advertising infrastructure, or additional sales channels. I love, or buying buying businesses that are in similar markets that you can cross promote with. Very smart.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're up to. So we start businesses and then we acquire businesses that essentially support that. And all together, they create the ability to roll up these businesses and create that $100 million exit. And what I realized was I was a lot closer to that than I thought, because all we had to do was take, three $4 million businesses, package them together, and now you're over that $10 million mark, which is actually oftentimes enough to sell for $100 million. So you and I actually might only be a few years away from that $100 million payday. And those of you who are building 7-figure businesses, you might also be only a few years away from that 8-figure or that 9-figure business if you follow the right strategy and you follow some of the stuff that we've talked about over the last hour.
I like the idea of putting together, of using your skill set of building 7 and 8-figure businesses, building a few of them, packaging them together, and rolling them up. Really, really smart. And the strategy that I have, my businesses will do between 25 and 30 million revenue this year. And I've got really strong, successful brands that have been around for 5 years plus, where it looks like that will continue and grow. So you could argue that the valuation on, let's say, one of my companies is very high, not quite $100 million. But the way that I'm looking at a single brand in Boom by Cindy Joseph, which is the brand that's the most successful for me, and I'm looking at what I believe is possible there, which I believe a 15% market penetration is possible to the people who would buy that product based on other brands in the space. And right now I have a 2%, between 1 and 2% market penetration. I've had about 600,000 buyers, maybe a little bit more. And there's about 38 million baby boomer women. Let's say 30 million of them are possible buyers, right? Because not all, some of them are on the older spectrum, some of them aren't online, some of them don't buy stuff, but you figure there's about potentially 30 million people I could sell to. I've sold to 2% of them. I believe that I can get a 15% market penetration with this one brand by reinvesting my profit not only into team and advertising and infrastructure and product innovation and content innovation, but also into international expansion and supply chain and logistics and additional visibility sources such as YouTube, such as television, such as radio, newspapers, such as marketplaces. I'm not on Amazon. I'm not in Walmart. I'm not on, such as retail, right? Look at what happened to this guy in my mastermind. He had a $20 million or so a year business. He took that winning offer and he put it into one visibility channel, because think about this. 8% of all sales are done online. 92% of everything that everyone's buying in America is at the local store, right? Somewhere in the physical world. So he added one visibility channel, which was the retail distribution network, onto a successful brand. And he was able to very rapidly grow that brand. And so that's my plan. It's a very similar plan with regard, in overarching strategy with regard to investing in growth in a number of ways. Investing those profits in growth. It's just for one particular offer and brand rather than a group of brands.
So that's how we go from 0 to 7, 7 to 8, and 8 to 9 in no time flat. And there are people in our space doing that. There are people like Ezra who have matured beyond the whole make money on the internet model and are now thinking about building empires. And if you are an entrepreneurial empire builder, Ezra and I would love to hang out with you for 3 days in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, and it's never been a more democratic, to use a word that is crossed out on Ryan's shirt currently, environment to be an online business owner. It's never been a more, I guess, I have to look up the exact meaning of egalitarian, but it's never been a more even playing field than it is right now. Look at me. I'm in my basement in upstate New York in front of a grappling mat talking to Drake, who's in Austin, Texas. And we're just a couple of guys, and there's nothing super special about us other than that.
I love my cat mugs.
Other than that, we have our attention on this very specific area, which is the idea behind how you create something engage with a group of people who might be interested in that and do that over time and use paid amplification and internet, digital technology, social media, things like that to grow essentially a movement. And like, you really have this opportunity too. And we're actually out here sharing exactly what's working in our businesses. So it's a really special time to be alive, because there's people on this call who are in England. There's people on this call who are in Australia. There's people on this call who are all over Europe, who are in different parts of America, who are in other countries, in Ireland, and so it's kind of an amazing time to be alive, in that there's never been any other group of people who's had to confront this much information distribution and filter through that and figure out what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. And obviously, some would argue that it's one of the biggest problems we're having in society at this time. Someone in here from Israel, from Italy, that's kind of cool. So I think it's really a special time to remember that we have an awesome opportunity, and all it takes is consistent directed attention over time. The same way a brand needs consistent directed advertising, you need to consistently pay attention to what you should be doing and do that. And the best place to do that, I believe, in December is definitely Capitalism Conference in Austin, Texas, December 7th through 9th, capitalism.com/Ezra.
That's right. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have your site set on like at least mid 7 figures, or your site or set? Like, you're like, I am after an empire and I want a 7 or an 8 figure empire. Like, I'm not just kidding around with this internet thing. How many of you actually have your site set on 7 or 8, 9? Like, put 7 or 8 or 9 inside of the chat box. I'm just curious, how many of you have curious for that? So yeah, Callie, Mitch, Andrea, Rory, Iden, BJ, David, Michael, Clark, Mike, Jay, John, Mike. Okay, so if that's the case, Art, Bo, Christopher, Bruce, Mitch, Jade, Paul. So if you've got that site set on a 7-figure business, an 8-figure empire, that 9-figure payday, then you've got to be around people who have that same vision, who are doing that. You need to be around and normalize that, because you could only be a few years away if you're following the right strategy and you're around the right people. And I've assembled that for you because I've actually assembled it for myself. I've assembled the event for myself, and I'm inviting you to come join us in Austin, Texas. I pay these guys to come coach me and coach my community so that we can accelerate that path to building that entrepreneurial empire. So if you are building something bigger than yourself, you understand the importance of marketing and sales to go from 7 to 8, and you're investing for the long term, and you're building an entrepreneurial empire, then I think it would be more than worthwhile of your time to spend the 3 days in Austin, Texas around this group of individuals who are way ahead of you, so that you normalize that and they come back and give you the playbook to get the same result. And Ezra will be there.
I will be there. It'll be fun. And closing thought, capitalism.com/Ezra, obviously, if you want to get these tickets. But the closing thought here is 2 things, guys and gals. So there will be women at this event as well. This is it's going to be awesome. There's going to be a lot of speakers, not just guys who are going to be there. Secondly is that ideally there's some goal that you have that is beyond making a bunch of money, because that as a goal in and of itself is somewhat hollow. I mean, what are you going to do with all this money once you make it? Like, what is the point of all of this, person? That's what I would ask you to have in the back of your mind when you show up to this conference, is like, what are you doing this for? What's the agenda? What ultimately are you reaching for? Do you want to buy the Cleveland Indians? Do you want to make an impact in your local community? What is it? I don't know. But I want you to think about that. I also would love to see you down at Capitalism Conference, December 7th through 9th. Thank you so much for showing up live. So many hundreds of you. It's a beautiful thing. I really appreciate that. And it means that we're doing something right. So thank you so much. I hope this has been beneficial. Even if you don't come to the event, I hope this has been beneficial for you. And I'll catch up with you soon. Ryan Moran, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you.